Hey everyone, I'm Eric Rain and today we're going to discuss Relics, one of the most important yet most misunderstood systems in Elden Ring Nightreign. Relics are special artifacts you collect at the end of each expedition, and they can permanently upgrade your chosen class. That sounds great in theory, but the problem is that most of their effects are worded so vaguely that it's hard to tell what's actually good and which ones are useless. In this video, I'm gonna break all that down. We'll talk about how relics work in general, and then I'll walk you through all of the specific effects they give, so you'll know which ones are worth keeping and which are frankly garbage. By the way, before we start, note that in this video we're going to discuss only those relics that work on every character. Class-specific relics we're going to break down in a different video. Let's get into it. So first, let's go over the basics, just in case you're new to Nightreign or haven't looked too closely at the relic system yet. As I said, you get relics at the end of each expedition, no matter win or lose, though obviously the rewards are better if you make it to the end. You can also buy relics from vendors at Round Table Hold. Relics come in 3 different tiers. Delicate ones give you 1 passive effect, with Polished you get 2, and Grand gives you 3. There are also unique relics which come from specific bosses or remembrance quests. These always have fixed effects, unlike the random ones you get from expeditions. Though I must emphasize that relics sold by the vendor may look random but actually have fixed effects too. Like for example the one that gives you a Stone Sword's key at the start of every run. The merchant also sells random ones too. As you may notice, every relic has its own color: red, green, blue and yellow, and each relic can only be equipped into a matching color socket on your vessel. You can equip up to 3 relics per character, and different vessels with new socket combinations can be either bought from the merchant or earned through our remembrance quests. If a socket on a vessel is white, it can take any color. By the way, unique relics also have their specific color, though it is shown as a little diamond in the corner, not on the relic itself. You can also sell any non-unique relics, which is a great way to clean out junk and earn some currency. Though you must be careful with that, since relics with many good passive effects are actually quite rare, as I will explain later in the video. Now let's move on to specific passives that the relics give you. Let's start with the most overrated type of relic effects: flat stat bonuses like +1, +2 or +3 to strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith, arcane, all that stuff. This might sound decent at first, but in reality these effects barely do anything. I tested this with RNI, who naturally scales with dexterity. I equipped a relic that gives you +3 dexterity and tried 2 setups, one at a level 1 with a basic light bow and one at level 15 with a black bow. The result was that setups gained around 3 extra damage per shot. That's it. In the level 15 setup, that translates to less than 3% extra damage overall, so practically nothing. Same goes for plus vigor, which gives you flat HP increase, plus mind, which increases your maximum mana, and plus endurance, which gives you stamina. For example, let's take the latter, endurance. If we take endurance +3, that's just 6 extra stamina points. When you compare that to something like stamina recovers with each successful attack +1, which gives you +3 stamina every single time you land a hit, it's not even close. This effect is 10 times more useful. So yeah, those little +1, +2 or +3 stat bumps, total garbage. Don't waste a slot on them unless you've got absolutely nothing better. Though pay attention, there are passive effects that are very similar to plus vigor, plus mind and plus endurance, but they are much better. I'm talking about effects such as increased max HP, increased max FP, or increased max stamina. Those are unique passive effects that you only get from certain boss relics. To put it into perspective, vigor +3 gives you only 60 HP, whereas increased max HP, which you get from Knight of the Phantom, gives you 100 HP, so almost double the amount compared to +3 vigor. The difference is about the same for other stats as well. So yeah, flat HP, stamina and mana increases on unique boss relics are actually quite good stat increases, and you can absolutely use them. Next up, elemental damage boosts. These ones are pretty straightforward and honestly not that bad. They come in 3 tiers, +1, +2 and +3. HP and give you a 4.5%, 5.5% or 6.5% damage increase to a specific element. Fire, magic, lightning, holy, you name it. Not exactly game-breaking, but if you're running an infused weapon, these can definitely help, especially in the late game when you really start to feel those percentage boosts. There is also an effect that gives you a physical damage boost. It works the same way as the elemental boosts, but it's a bit weaker, +3, +4 or +5% damage increase. Also, there's one more variant, relics that boost damage on a specific weapon type, like axes, bows, daggers, and so on and so forth. These give you a flat +6.5% to all damage with that weapon. It might be hard to find a relic that boosts your class's specific weapon, but in theory that effect is very good. Again, it's not a game-breaking, but it's much better than flat stat increases like +3 dexterity we tested earlier. Now let's move on to the effects that are actually worth building around, the ones that can genuinely impact your run. First up, elemental infusion effects for your starting weapon are super useful. These automatically infuse your weapon with fire, magic, lightning, or holy damage right at the beginning of the run. If the final boss is weak to that element, you can deal up to 40% more damage just from that one relic. Also, the right elemental damage makes it much easier to stagger the final boss. So yeah, these passives can make you much stronger against the final boss. Just don't forget to upgrade your starting weapon during the run. And yeah, also note that if you equip 2 relics that infuse your starting weapon, only the leftmost one applies. Then there's a fact that gives you a flat 10% damage boost if you're carrying 3 or more weapons of the same type, like 3 bows, 3 daggers, or whatever. It doesn't matter if you use them, just having them in your inventory is enough. It even works for casters. You can carry 3 light bows as a recluse and still get +10% damage to your spells. It's a great boost as long as you find the right weapons. There are a couple more effects like this, +200 max HP if you're carrying 3 shields, and +50 max FP if you're carrying 3 staffs or seals. And yeah, these scale really well, even at higher levels. For example, Iron Eye only has 820 HP at level 15. With the +200 bonus HP, that's a 25% increase, so you'll have over 1000 HP in total, which is huge. Same for FP. If you're playing Recluse, 50 extra FP is another 25% spike to your mana on level 15. So yeah, any relics that give you flat stat bonuses just for having stuff in your inventory are quite good. They are some of the strongest and most flexible effects in the game. One of the best stamina related effects in the game is stamina recovers with each successful attack. Yeah, the one I mentioned earlier in the video. There's a regular version that gives you +2 stamina per hit and an upgraded +1 version that gives you +3. That's a massive boost for classes like Iron Eye or Duchess, characters who throw out constant attacks but don't have the biggest stamina pools. Definitely worth equipping. Also, the effect that gives you a Stone Sword key right at the start of the expedition is very good. With this relic, you're guaranteed to unlock at least 1 extra Evergale boss per run, and also gives you much more flexibility at the start of the expedition. You can even take on an Evergale boss right at the beginning of the expedition and start snowballing really fast. Another super useful effect is the one that also heals your allies when you use your flask. The healing is reduced for them by 50%, but it's still very useful, especially if you have 3 melee characters in your party. Though remember that the range for this thing is not the best, but if you communicate with your teammates and group up before using flasks, this effect can be a game changer. There's also a relic that increases stamina regeneration for nearby allies. It's decent since it lets you clear out areas faster, but I would say that it's not as strong as the previous effect, since on the final boss you most probably will be far away from each other. Obviously, grouping up for some stamina makes no sense. The effect that makes your consumables work in AoE is also very strong, but only if you're in a voice chat with your teammates. With this effect, you can use your buffs much more efficiently, but you must be in a very close proximity for it to work, though I must say that it is absolutely worth it. By the way, probably the best consumables you can get with this effect is the Golden Pickled Foul Feet that increases rune gain. Probably the the best relic effect that boosts your damage is the one that gives you plus 5% damage for every Evergale boss you defeat. That is huge since in most runs you can easily clear out 2 or 3 Evergales, especially if you have this relic that gives you a Stone Sword key at the beginning of the expedition. The effect that increases your mana after releasing Sorcerer's Rise mechanism is a must if you play as a caster. As you may know, in Nightreign there are no mana flasks, and good mana upgrades are a must if you are a caster. With this effect you will get 18% max FP after releasing a Sorcerer's Rise mechanism, which is huge. And yeah, you can also release multiple ones to get even more FP. Lastly, I want to mention the Knight of the Lord. It has 3 unique passive effects that work great together. Every time you switch weapons, the one you switch to gets automatically infused with a random element, kind of like you just greased it up without needing an item. That one alone gives you a flat plus 10% damage bonus for elemental hits, but on top of that, the act of switching also gives you a general plus 10% damage buff, regardless of what you are holding. So yeah, definitely an amazing relic with great effects, but for some reason it's underrated in the community. Now let's talk about the relic effects that might sound good but are underwhelming at best and flat out useless at worst. Firstly, the effect that increases rune acquisition for self and allies. This one gives you plus 3.5% rune bonus for the whole team. I mean, it's fine, but let's be honest, 3.5% is barely noticeable over the course of a full run. Though I must say that it's much better than the one that says critical hits earn runes. This might sound good until you realize that you only get 300 runes per hit, which is practically nothing even at the start of the expedition. But how about shop discount relics? Yeah, even the best version only gives you 20% off, and most players don't spend many runes at shops to begin with. Unless you're deliberately farming specific villages that sell high value items, this one's just taking up space. There's also the relic that gives you one more consumable slot. Also, this one practically does nothing in most of the cases. The one that marks treasure on the map is also redundant. Just go to a fort and activate the full map. You'll get better intel and see scraps too, which are much more valuable than treasure spots. Cooldown reduction relics are also another trap. Even at their best, they shave off just 10% from your skill cooldowns. Most characters won't notice the difference. Again, it's okay to have, but it's definitely not the passive you want to actively look for. Then you've got resistance boosts, like plus 10% Holy or Lightning Negotiation. The problem is that bosses usually deal mixed damage types, and these don't do nearly enough to justify their existence. Same deal for extra damage against poisoned or frozen enemies. The damage increase is okay, but that only works if you're already running a status build, which is rare, and most bosses are straight up immune to those effects anyway, which also makes relics that inflict bleed, frost, and rot on your starter weapon pretty much dead weight, especially because you cannot stack them with elemental infusions, so you're just trading good damage for something that won't necessarily trigger on late game enemies. The only exception is the relic that makes you inflict poison. It's actually quite good against the second boss. Crit relics are also heavily overrated. Even with plus 20% crit damage, you barely get to use it, and in many cases, crit animations slow you down during clears. Same goes for effects that give you minor HP or FP regeneration. Nice in theory, but the heal from them is laughable and will never make a real difference in any fight. And yeah, let's not forget all of those hyper-specific relics for throwing knives, pots, etc. Where are you even supposed to get those items consistently? You'll never see them enough in a single run to justify dedicating a relic to boost their damage. There is one effect I'd say is a bit controversial, the one that boosts damage of specific spell types or incantations. On paper, plus 12% to spell damage sounds pretty nice, but the problem is there are too many different spell types in the game. If this effect happened to boost something common, like glintstone sorceries, which Recluse uses by default, then yeah, that's okay I guess. But if it's for, I don't know, carrion sword sorceries or some ultra specific niche like stone digger sorceries, then what's even the point? You'll never use it. There's also the relic that boosts the damage of your very first standard attack in a combo. Most weapons have 3, 4, sometimes even 5 hit hit chains, so it's not really worth it. Effects that change your starting weapon skill are okay, I guess, if you found a good one that is also compatible with your base weapon, but again, it will barely make a difference in an actual run. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Most relic effects in Nightreign are either mediocre or straight up garbage, and finding even one with 2 solid passives is very rare if we take random relics. That's why you should really keep an eye on what you sell. By the way, if I didn't mention some of the specific effects that you also may find on some relics, well, chances are it's either super niche or just so obviously bad I didn't want to waste your time. Like plus 15% throwing knife damage, that sounds more like a joke. Anyway, I hope this helped you to sort through all the chaos with the relics. And if it did, don't forget to like this video to help me out with this YouTube algorithm. And also let me know in the comments which effects you actually use and if there are some really good ones that I might have missed. But anyways, thanks for watching. As always, take care and I'll see you in the next one.